Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Annabelle from BioBuzz. Today, we are back for another one of our Career Catalyst sessions, part of our Career Catalyst and Community Office Hours series. These are weekly conversations designed to give you access to the industry insiders, real-world insights, and actual advice to help you grow your career. And today's session is all about navigating your job search. So how you're working with a recruiter can make all the difference. And we know you guys are balancing a lot with work, family, life. So when you're looking for your next opportunity or trying to break into a new sector, the job hunt we know can be very overwhelming. So that's where recruiters come in. And we're thrilled to have Lauren Shu here today as the guest. Lauren is a seasoned recruiter with deep experience in both corporate and agency settings, focused on placing life science professionals across roles in HR, finance, IT, and data, and beyond. She's very passionate about building high-performing teams and helping individuals find the right fit. And today she's going to share some of the practical strategies for working with recruiters, avoiding some of those common pitfalls, and then taking control of your job search. Before we do get started today, I do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor for today's session, BioTrack. I want to thank them for sponsoring today. Like I said, they have hands-on workshops. They've trained over 17,000 scientists. I would highly recommend checking them out if you're looking to upskill. Great resource. I also want to mention that today's session is part of the BioBuzz Talent Lab. Like I said, great resource for job opportunities, industry connections, and professional growth. So get on there, join the beta testing of that if you haven't already. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Lauren now.
Great. Thank you, Annabelle. Hi, I'm Lauren Shu. As Annabelle said, I've been recruiting as a talent consultant or recruiter for the past over 20 years, mostly life sciences and IT, finances. She went through my background. So it's been a little bit of everything. There are a lot of benefits to working with a recruiter, and we'll go over those today. One thing, as many of you may have noticed, when you are on LinkedIn in the job board networking world, you can be approached by a lot of people, and it can sometimes be a little overwhelming to navigate all the people reaching out and figuring out what to do first. Does it make sense to speak with somebody first, or is there something else you need to do before you get started? So we'll go over all of that today, and hopefully be able to help you shift your job search experience from being stressful or uncertain to more strategic and supported. So we'll go over some of the challenges that you'll face as you do a job search, how recruiters can be helpful, and then some actionable steps that you can take. Today, especially, I think job searches are not just about checking boxes to find a job. People really want to make an impact. They want to better their career and make choices in terms of where they're going to go for work that will improve their career and also that they can contribute to. So that can be a lot to navigate when you also have a full load of life, just your current job, possibly family commitments, other responsibilities outside of work. So it's really helpful to be able to narrow your focus and make sure that you're making the most of your time. So that's where, having a strategy to it all can definitely be helpful. So today, as I mentioned, there's going to be some discussion about career navigation challenges, balancing all of that as you're looking for a new role, and what role a recruiter can or can't play in that for you. And then also just what type of assistance you can expect as you're speaking with a recruiter. So some of the job search challenges, there are so many companies out there hiring. There really are a number of jobs, and across, definitely I've seen in my experience, even within the same industry, job titles can be the same, but the jobs are very different. So you might think you're applying to a job that you're qualified for based on the title of it. But if you actually get into the details of the job description, it may not be aligned as well as you think. Also, just even understanding what the company's culture is and understanding different things that are going to be important to you, whether or not that company is even going to be able to offer that, everything including benefits, work-life balance, working from home or remotely. So that can be a lot to navigate when you're looking at job boards. And I can tell you from our end of it, a lot of times job boards will have just the option of, is this an on-site position or a remote position? They may not have that in between information that a recruiter would maybe have and some insider insights on. Also, just going through the process of having an interview, you put a lot of applications out there. When it comes to actually doing the interview, that's your one chance to make a good impression. And so it can be pretty stressful, and you want to make sure that you're prepared for that. And also just that you have that person in your corner, keeping you updated. I definitely have found that these days I use text messaging a lot to keep people updated as to their interviews and if they've been scheduled or confirmed or if they need to change. Just being able to be that extra reminder, because it can be a lot to be balancing, especially if you have a number of companies you're speaking with. So as I touched on just there are a number of ways that a recruiter can help as you're doing all of this. So one way would be through, just as I mentioned, the sourcing of opportunities. There are jobs out there that maybe have been posted one way, because again, example being, I'm working with a company right now where they're flexible on the level of the position they hire for. They would be open to hiring a director level. They would also be open to hiring a VP level. So that's going to be very different candidate profiles. And even just for people to be applying to a job, if they see a title that doesn't align, they may not apply, or if they think it's too low level, they may not apply. So having that insight from a recruiter can be really helpful. That would be one example, I would say, of some of the insights they can offer. Also, just the culture, the location and flexibility of location, whether something can be hybrid, that sort of thing. And also just application support. When you are applying to jobs online, a lot of these places will have you fill out an application as you're going through the process. Recruiters can help to streamline that. A lot of times they're working directly with the hiring manager, and they are able to kind of save you the time. You wouldn't be completing an application maybe till a little bit further into the process, rather than having to do all of it up front without even knowing if you're going to be contacted or not. Interview preparation. I know that I have found even seasoned workers really can appreciate that if they have not been on the job market for a while, it may have been a while since they've actually been on the other side of an interview. They may have conducted interviews, interviewing people to work for them, but actually being on the side of somebody that's being interviewed, and it does create a different experience. So having a recruiter who can give you some coaching throughout the process, giving you an idea of some insights as to what might be covered in the interview, what things you can do to prepare, and just to be more confident going into it. And another piece that the recruiter can do for you is the salary negotiation. A lot of times that is something that if you are working with a recruiter and they're representing you to a company directly, they would be able to negotiate that on your behalf. So they are the people doing this day in, day out, and can definitely and would definitely have your best interest at heart in terms of getting you the best possible compensation. And I would also tell you, just ongoing support. It's definitely it's competitive out there. So right now, one thing I try to do is anybody that I'm working with, I really try to get them feedback so they can have a sense of what they could do differently, what they're missing. A lot of times it comes down to, the candidate that gets the job over the other candidate is just more qualified. They might have a different certification that was preferred, not required, but they have it. There's all sorts of reasons why people get selected over each other. And I think it's really helpful to get that feedback so that if there is, for example, a certification, you can go out and get that. And maybe that would make you more competitive and have that better edge. So that's kind of the role that a recruiter can play in terms of areas they can help you with.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah. There's like a little pop-up at the bottom of your screen. Can you hide that really quick? I think it's just obstructing some of the text.
Okay, sorry. Is it the stop sharing?
Hide. Just click that.
Sorry.
Hide.
There we go.
Then just want to make sure if you guys can all see the slides.
Can everybody? Yeah. So that's the one that we were just on. I didn't realize that was visible too. All right. So in terms of optimizing your job search, so when you do, so if you're currently working and looking for a job, you obviously have even less time to be spending talking to people about your job search. So there's things that you can do ahead of those conversations. As soon as you know that you are going to be looking for a job, there's definitely some action items you can take. So building and refreshing your materials. There are so many LinkedIn profiles that are not up to date with people's actual jobs. I think people oftentimes will update a job and not update the end date of their other position. That's another thing where it might look like somebody's doing two jobs at the same time for a period of years, and that could be confusing as well. So definitely make sure your LinkedIn profile is up to date. Tailoring your resume as well to the job that you want. If there is a job that you are needing to focus on, that you make sure that your CV is catered towards that. Heavier, for example, if you're applying to a role that requires specific experience in oncology, then you want to make sure you really capture all of your oncology experience on there, and not just assume that they would expect that knowing which company you're at or something. You want to make sure that you're really capturing the relevant information and the things you've been doing. And one way to have this on hand is just as you're going through, maybe have a tickler every year, every 6 months to just update your CV, because that way, even if you're not looking, you do have a current version of that. It's really hard to go back and ask yourself, wow, I've been here 5 years. What have I done? And so going back and trying to do that after the fact can be tricky. Try to make sure that you're building that out as you go. Also, the other piece of updating your materials would really be to create an elevator pitch for yourself. So when you do get on the phone with someone, whether it's a recruiter or somebody that you're networking with, being able to just have a cohesive message you're sending them. You're telling them in kind of a short summary of what you've done, your story, where you want to go with your career, what you're looking for. And part of that too would be to research your target employers. So figuring out what types of companies you'd be interested in working for, location and proximity to where you are, or specifically what the type of work that they're doing. Really identifying which companies you want to focus on. And you can follow them on LinkedIn. You can see if they've put updates about job postings and that sort of thing. Those things can come available. Recruiters, if you are working with a recruiter that works with any company that you're targeting, they're going to obviously be able to help you and keep you in the loop on new openings as they come available. So that's one piece of it. Also, just building relationships with people. I think a lot of times there's an expectation for some sort of immediate gratification. I think, expanding your network is always valuable. So whether or not a certain job works out, I can tell you from experience, just over the last month, I have people that I spoke with over the past several years that I've reached back out to because I now have a role that seems exactly right for them. So I think recruiters really, their whole business is relationships. And so creating that relationship, letting them know what makes you maybe unique to the other people out there, what you would be bringing to a role, then you're on their short list and they will contact you as soon as there's something that's a strong fit for you. Also working with people through your alumni networks and even just within the group networking groups on LinkedIn can be valuable. There's a number of associations, conferences, that sort of thing. Really just having a broad network can really make a huge difference when you begin looking for a job. And obviously constantly learning, giving yourself opportunities, speaking with a recruiter is in of itself a way to almost do a mock interview and get used to telling your story and describing what you're doing and what you would be looking for in your next role. And obviously the recruiter piece as well. A lot of times, if you're just applying online and you get a rejection email, you have no idea why. They don't necessarily give you any specifics. So if you do work with a recruiter, you're more likely to get specific feedback that can help you reflect and adjust your job search. to figure out, are you going the right direction with it? Are you looking at the right job titles? And maybe there's something you're missing that you can on the side go and actively gain experience in that area. Okay, so some things that you can kind of little boxes you can check that are in line with what we were just discussing. Building a job map. So if you were to identify 3 roles or jobs that you're interested in applying for, and look at each of them and think about what it is that appeals to you, what are the key required skills that you need for those roles, and how does your background align? What would you be bringing to that role that's relevant to what they're looking for? That helps you to craft your career story. So being able to have a few bullet points for each experience, relevant skills, and how you'll contribute to the company's goals. Achievements are great, especially for sales positions, but I do think there's other roles within project management. I mean, really all roles, if there's any sort of information, data you can share that captures your relevant skills and achievements, then that's really valuable. So crafting your career story and how you'll contribute to the company's goals. There's also the role-specific messaging, and this does take more time. So this is the sort of thing that once you've identified some positions that you're very much interested in, taking the time to do cover letters, intro emails, and interviews. I have a number of people that have reached out to me as they've seen I've been recruiting for something and introduced themselves in addition to applying online. And it does help bring extra attention to you as a job seeker. And you never know, because even if the current role that they're working on is not the right fit or anything, they will know that you've reached out to them and you're being proactive about it, and then have you on their list for when something might open up that would be better aligned with your experience. So taking the time to do all that really can make a difference, because not everybody does. A lot of people do just press the button and apply and don't have that more tailored approach to it. So I wanted to just include this information. As we've been talking about recruiters, there are a lot of scams out there. And so I know this is a lot of bullet points. I just wanted to go ahead and put this out for people to look at, just to have some awareness. Unsolicited jobs that seem too good to be true, or a job offer that comes without actually having to interview, really, that seems vague, or the salary seems unrealistic or too good to be true. It likely is. I don't know of any jobs that are going to ask you to pay up front for to apply or to start work. Usually a company will provide you with the necessary equipment. If there's any training required for the role, they would provide that for you. And if anything, oftentimes you get paid for that training. You don't necessarily have to pay for it. Emails from places that they look similar. There's a lot of those scams out there. I actually personally have received a number of text messages from what appear to be presenting themselves as recruiters, and I'm wary of those too. I text people as a recruiter, and I usually try to introduce myself. I say what company I'm with. I try to provide a lot of information in that text message, so they know, so you can kind of tell whether it's legit. And it's usually following up to, hey, I just sent you a message on LinkedIn. So if you want to check your LinkedIn, you can reply back to me there, or I just sent you an email and wanted to follow up with this text to make sure you saw my email and it didn't go to spam, something like that. So definitely keep an eye out. There's anybody that's trying to collect private, personal information. I mean, obviously you're going to be sharing your work history and that sort of thing, but any sort of social security numbers or anything like that doesn't need to be shared up front. And also, personally, I enjoy getting on the phone with people. If people prefer, I do video meetups as well. So, that's completely fair and reasonable to expect from a recruiter, is for them to speak with you live and not have everything be just over text or email. So definitely, and then some of these other ones, I just wanted to include everything, but you don't want to, receive things and then send stuff back out, money or packages or otherwise. So that's enough about that. So we've already talked about the advantages, the recruiter advantage, the network that you'd have access to, personalized guidance, interview preparation, salary negotiation, and ongoing support. So next steps that you can take: identify recruiters in your industry. A lot of recruiters are specialized within a specific area. They may be associated with a particular company. So it's definitely worth, and it's worth talking to more than one. Some recruiters will work with one set of companies and others have others. So there's really no harm in speaking with more than one. It's going to be important for you as the candidate to make sure you're tracking where you have applied and who you've given permission to submit you as a candidate. If you have somebody representing you to a company, it's really good to have a list that you keep and the name associated with that company and who you're working with. Also, again, go update your professional profile. Make sure that you've updated that extra certification you picked up or the extra experience you've gained. All of that is really valuable, as recruiters do use LinkedIn. That's a huge tool for a lot of recruiters, is to use LinkedIn. And when they do that, they're searching for information on your profile that would show you having relevant experience to a role. And then schedule time, to reach out and have a conversation with a recruiter if you feel like they're in a space that's relevant to you and would be able to give you some guidance within the field you want to go to or the companies that you're interested in. And stay engaged and responsive. So that's another one. There's definitely times I've had experience with people where they seem interested and then they disappear. So that can be tricky, and it goes both ways. So definitely having that mutual respect with the person you're working with. I would recommend that when you do speak with a recruiter, you set expectations before you get off the call. So have an expectation set where you know when you're going to be hearing from them next, or if there's any action items you have, if you need to do anything in advance of your next call with them, that sort of thing, and how you like to best stay in touch. So if you prefer text messaging, let them know that. Just having a plan so that there can be that open communication. And yeah, we got through it. I'll leave the next steps up because I feel like those would be relevant. But Annabelle, I've made it through. I tried to keep it to 20 minutes, so we have time for questions.